Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see that some people remain here. Carlin told me that she wanted the best for the last, so that's the reason I have the last spot to do the presentation. And I just had a request to do it in Portuguese, so I hope that you are ready to take that. So, you already know about me. Thank you for the introduction, Dervin. But my first business outside of corporate life, I bought a gun shop in 2016, and then the year after, we bought the first septic business, Williams & Bay. So everybody I talk with, I say I shoot the shit because that's we got all kinds of jokes, so we better get that straight away. Okay, but for me, how do I go back? In our industry, septic disposal is the most critical strategic issue that we can have. If you look at Part 117, if you don't have a disposal plan, if you cannot take your septic to approve the site, we basically cannot do our business, we cannot haul. So it's not about forgetting to flush, but it's what happens after you flush that is critically important for our industry. Besides Williams & Bay, I'm also with Hall Serval in Alpena, Michigan. And I can see some of our dear competitors here in the room, but that's a letter that we all got from the local wastewater treatment facility, which a lot of people used to take septic to. But basically, they are saying that effective July 1st, they will cease receiving septic from all outside sources. Okay? There is nothing that demands a public wastewater treatment facility to receive septic from us. Many of them refuse to do so because it disrupts their process. And in some cases, what I learned is that this facility in Alpena is close to their limit capacity and nobody wants to expand it. So the easy way for them to deal with it is shut receiving septic. So disposal is critical. It doesn't matter if it's a public sewer or on-site treatment like a septic system. It generates byproduct that must be treated and safely disposed. Okay? So there's not one better solution. Several years ago, when I just started the business, I went in a clear water conference in Traverse City, and there was a lady there saying, "Oh, thanks God, I live in my house is connected to a sewer system, not one of those dirt septic tanks." And let's say I got exception with it, and we started a lively educational session with her. But the problem is, whether you are in sewer or septic system really depends on housing density and location, soil type, and stuff like that. And so if we talk about a public sewer system, it involves transporting untreated sewage to a wastewater plant. Okay? There are several potential failures that people that live in a sewer system never think about that, but seepage overflow, pipe ruptures, accidental discharge of untreated sewage. We can see that in the newspapers. I try to, whenever I find those informations, I save it as and I think we should use that as a marketing for our organization of, you know, since we started operating in 2017, we may have lost 300 gallons of septic when I had a truck turnover in the first year of operation. And we took care of that immediately. You get any place that has a ruptured pipe and you have thousands of gallons per minute going out. Anyhow, the byproducts always are clarified water in one way, some way, shape, or form, and solids, and gases that go through the atmosphere that we don't really think too much about. On-site septic treatment, that's what our business is. We all talk about that, okay? The main thing about is the potential failures are generally contained to the site and can be mitigated by proper maintenance. And that's how it's so important to educate our customer on the need of proper and timely pumpings and things like that. The analysis I like to do to people that don't know septic systems well is that doing a pump is pretty much like changing the oil in your the vehicle engine, okay? If you buy a new vehicle, you spend $30,000 or $100,000, doesn't matter, in a new vehicle, you want to take care of that asset. You do oil changes at regular intervals. And if you miss one oil change, probably it's not fatal to the engine. But if you miss that for a long time, you probably lose an engine, and that's going to be very expensive. That's the same rationale that I try to use with customers that are not used to pumping their system is, change your oil before you break your engine, or make sure you pump your system before you destroy it. You know, there's a question of how much solids you have there, how much fogs you have there, the speed of flow, are you sending solids to the drain field and potentially destroying it. So those are discussions that we always have. But again, pretty much like in a public wastewater treatment facility, you have a couple byproducts, especially the clarified water that is goes to the soil through the drain field, and solids that are eventually going to be pumped out by us. So, talking about disposal, that's absolutely critical for haulers. So, we can't haul if we can't properly and safely dispose. I don't need to read the regulation there. This presentation is going to be available in the MISTA website for everybody. But what are the alternatives for us to comply with the law? Either take it to a wastewater treatment plant that can be either municipal or public and or private, or do land application. Okay? There's really no other magic. Some people go, oh, you should incinerate that. I don't think it's economically or environmentally feasible. So, how a wastewater treatment plant works? First thing, if you go to anything that meets the requirement of the law for surface discharge of the water, they are really high cost, they are complex to operate. It's not only, they really need a lot of work to make it work properly. And the two byproducts, the clarified water is either discharged on surface water bodies or reused and recycled, depending where the facility is located. Okay? And the biosolids, eventually they will either end up in a landfill, or they will be land applied, or further processed, like everybody knows about milorganite, that it's really a byproduct that's processed into a household fertilizer for lawns and things like that. Generally, the scales of a municipal wastewater facility is measured in millions of gallons per day. Some people say, okay, great, I have a municipal wastewater treatment facility. That's the least headache for me. Let's dispose there, let's pay, forget. But is it? So the haulers at the clearance of that facility operator, okay? They define your hours of service. They define if there are seasonal restrictions. They can shut down for maintenance and repair. They define how many gallons that they can receive or are willing to receive. They define the cost per gallon, which, let's talk, some facilities are 6 cents a gallon. Traverse City is 18, Jackson 21. I heard yesterday about a facility charging 23 cents a gallon. You know, you think, okay, I can just pass that cost to my customers, but at today's economy, will that stop your customer from doing a pumping because now the cost of it's too high? Okay? Or, like that letter from Alpina, they just will no longer receive septage, and now what you do with your business. So, I like poetry, but I like to be the master of my fate and the captain of my soul. And if you do not have a plan to control the disposal, you are not. Your business at somebody else's hand. And I strategically think that's the biggest risk that we can have. On a private wastewater treatment plant, generally it's focused on dewatering. It's much less complex than a full-blown public wastewater treatment facility, okay? You have limited or no treatment, and you have two byproducts, clarified water that cannot be discharged on surface water bodies because of the limited treatment, and biosolids. So depending on where you go here, the biosolids generally go to a landfill, and the water needs to go to a sewer system, okay? We are going to talk about surface application of water, but there is a complete different regulation that applies to that. Again, a private dewatering facility can be extremely simple or very complex. I was surprised not to see Teresa here. It's the first time I don't see her in a convention, but you can have something that's as simple as a container with a membrane, and you apply polymer there, and it keeps pushing the water out, and when that is full of solids, you just hold that to the wastewater, to the landfill. Or you can have a very complex installation with all kinds of grinder, separator, and stuff like that. I know that multiple companies have their own wastewater treatment. And again, it's a question of doing the study from a technical and economical feasibility to see what would be applicable to each of our business, but those are some of the alternatives. Again, for the clarified water disposal, that's the big thing. If you put that in a sewer, that limits the location of the facility to some place that has a sewer connection. In southern Michigan, that's not that bad, but if you're in northern Michigan, if you're in the UP, that may be a challenge, okay? Also, you require an approval from the municipal wastewater treatment facility or the city authorities to dispose of that clarified water there. And there are certain costs that, again, are not under our control, so we continue to be at the mercy of someone else. Land application or irrigation. Once it's processed by dewatering, the clarified water is a result of an industrial process and no longer regulated by Part 117, but is regulated by Part 22. And that's called groundwater discharge program. It's not impossible to get, but it's reasonably time-consuming and can be expensive to get those permits. But there are several municipal facilities that do ground discharge of their clarified water, then letting them go to surface water bodies. And so it's doable. It's a question of how much it takes and how much it costs to do that. The biosolids, generally the most common, goes to a landfill. But again, if you are taking there, it's not, the cost is not under our own control. You are at the mercy of somebody else, and it's regulated by Part 115. Biosolids can also be land applied. It's regulated by Part 24. You need to do cropping plans, agronomical application rates, pretty much like you do for land application of septic, but there's a lot more testing and control, and there is a 20-year limit in application of a property by EPA 503. So if you are applying biosolids to land, understand that at 20 years that caps the life of that site. You can, after 20 years, you can no longer apply there. It looks like a long time, but some of us have been in business for a lot longer than that. So unless you have the opportunity to move sites and things like that, also the testing required, there's a lot of testing for heavy metals on the soil, and it's quite a bit more expensive than just simple soil samples for agricultural use. There's one word of caution that anybody that does land application or has a private wastewater treatment facility, a local government unit may require that all septic collected in that government unit be disposal in a receiving facility. And that effectively prohibits land application of septic to land. We faced a problem like that in a township in Leelanau County last year. And they just wanted us to stop land applying, but they didn't provide an alternative for us. They send us a cease and desist order, and through our lawyer, we respond very strongly that their cease and desist order was not valid because they could not comply with legislation. So we could get away from that, but again, it's a possibility that we always need to be aware of, and it's a risk for our investment and the control of our business. Legal support for land application, which is another alternative now for us to dispose. Of course, Part 117 has very clearly stated that land application is one of the ways that we can dispose of septage. And besides that, we have a very powerful tool in the Right to Farm Act. Provided that we are using land application to produce a farm produce, corn, hay, doesn't matter. Right of farm is very strong, and the Farm Bureau will stay behind us and really support us on that. For me, one of the most critical aspects of land application is public relations and education. The public is generally very skeptical because they associate land application with dumping. Oh, you just get an untreated product and you throw in your land and that's it. No, that's not. You know, we need to educate the public about all the benefits, be them economical, be them ecological. It's a very well-established and sustainable process. Why do we land apply? First, prevent and reduce the risk to public health by disposing of septage in a proper way, in a safe way. It prevents or reduces the potential for nutrient and pathogen contamination of groundwater and other surface waters, because we are not putting anything in surface water. You do land application where you don't have runoffs that are maximum allowable amount per day to the ground hydrostatic capacity. There are maximum allowed amounts per year due to the agronomical application rate and things like that. It provides nutrients to grow crops, so it reduces the need of chemical fertilizers. Okay? It reduces the cost of septage disposal significantly. So while we are talking about disposing in a public wastewater treatment plant, the cost varies anything from 6 to 23 cents per gallon, depending where you are. Operating your own dewatering facility, you're probably looking at 5 to 6 cents per gallon, plus the cost of building that. And if you do not consider the cost of land, land application is roughly around 2 cents per gallon for disposal. So it's really an economic differentiator in a way of maximizing the returns for our business. And most and foremost, I believe that provide independence to haulers from outside factors impacting how we manage our business, how we dispose of our product, how we have a long-term sustainable business. The requirements for land application is you must have an EGO-approved storage facility greater than 50,000 gallons, or equal or greater than 50,000 gallons. You need to do a site approval. You get the map where you want to land apply. You look at all the proper setbacks. You look at surface water, wells, and all kinds of things, and do that properly. You need to do soil samples, a cropping plan, which is a very simple document. You need to keep your gallon reports of what you apply per acre per year. Before you do the application, you need to do screening of non-soluble solids. And there is a site inspection that is generally done by the sanitarian of your area. And the nice thing is that you can have as many sites as you need. So if you operate on over a large geographic area, you could have multiple different sites where you can maximize how efficient you run our fleet. The economic feasibility is it provides an alternative means for septic disposal that is much more economic than the alternative or taking to a wastewater treatment plant. Again, the 2 cents per gallon is really where I see it without putting the cost of the land, okay? And it all depends on the arrangement you make. If you do your own farming, if you contract a farmer to do that for you, you can come with very creative and constructive arrangements with farmers in your area to do this properly. And it's environmental sustainability. So septic provides macro and micronutrients to grow crops. You can grow feed crops such as forage to benefit livestock. And when done at the proper agronomic application rate, you can completely eliminate chemical fertilizers from that plant, from that area. And now, I had to create this slide yesterday after our lobbyists started talking about PFAS in the morning. That was not something that I was ready to talk about, but since he brought that rather alarming thing about, oh, you gotta watch about PFAS and or we'll stop all land application, I had an impromptu meeting with the AGO guys when they arrived yesterday. And I had a discussion. So this is almost from the horse mouth. This is a discussion I had both with Greg Merico and Matt Rockhold just before their one-on-one sessions started. So PFAS is a reality. We have had them since the 1950s. Any clothing that is water resistant, Teflon, pesticides, fire suppressor, et cetera, has PFAS on it, okay? He thinks there's more PFAS on agricultural fields than we can ever imagine because of the use of pesticides. Like Roundup, anything that connects to the leaf of a plant, they do that because they have PFAS on that. And also, that goes down, it goes down to the soil. In a septic tank, the only sources of PFAS are from washing personal items. If you wash a Teflon pan, you are going to have PFAS going to your septic tank. If you wash a rain jacket, it's going to go to your septic tank. And household chemicals. A lot of detergents, personal hygiene products, and things like that contain PFAS. Eagle tests indicate that residential septic have very low PFAS levels. Very, very low, okay? And looking at their approach, their scientific approach to it, you can only accept testing done in tank. If you test for PFAS at the receiving facility, that it's not valid anymore because you don't know what went to that. He was telling me in an example that they were testing septic for PFAS at a public receiving facility downstate, and the levels were through the roof. And then EGO went there to investigate. Well, the same point where we bring septic was also a point where industrial waste was brought. So what are you really testing? Septic or that industrial waste that may have been put there 1 hour before we were there, okay? The focus is to prevent PFAS to get into residential septic by removing PFAS from householding products and other things. So, therefore, EGO does not anticipate any impact on land application due to PFAS, and especially considering there are no feasible or economic alternatives to land application in the state of Michigan. If we stop land application, the processing capacity of the state goes absolutely berserk. There's no place that can do what we do today, okay? But again, another word of caution, who can predict the future, you know? Out of the mind of uninformed and well-intentioned people, the path to hell is paved. So it's our obligation to take this and talk with our legislators, lobbyists, educate our customers and all of that, and prevent them from trying to impose us restrictions that are totally unnecessary. Okay? And I think that it's my last slide. Open to questions, comments, or people that want to brave the roads and go home. Thank you very much. Appreciate our time. You guys be safe out there.
Thank you for everyone coming.